your tongue or whatever that is, what you mean, and you can still say what you got to say, and you don't have to scream at people or cuss them out. Sometimes that's hard to do, but it can be done. That way people will be more apt to listen to you than to say, did you hear what she said? She hurt my feelings. She, and miss the point. So what you have to do is take a deep breath, count to 4 or 5, and say what you got to say, and let it be from the Bible. Using a character from the Bible to make your point.
Okay. Not to study a lot more than.
We're supposed to study a lot of God's word because we are God's children, and people get that halfway done. They listen to part of what God say, and the other part is what they want to say, and it gets all messed up. Then people start looking at God funny, like, you said what? And God didn't say all that. So you have to know what God said and what people say.
Okay.
You have to be able to make a distinction. Lots of people want to manipulate God. And see, God said this, and God didn't say that neither. This is what God said, da, 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 da. So this is why we have to study to show ourselves approved of a worker that need not be made ashamed. We have to study God's word. Sometimes people in the Bible didn't get it right either because they want to do what they want to do. They just want to do what they want to do. And they want everybody else to do what they say. And so they say, well, God said for you. You know what? They argue with Moses all the time. Moses went up on Mount Sinai, came down with the 10 Commandments. And Moses said, no, what are y'all out here doing? Running around acting like you're crazy.
I'm sorry. I went outside. I didn't see the glass jar.
Still ain't found it?
And I don't know what Dad did with it, so.
Oh, boy. Maybe I can call her. Yeah, you don't have your thingy, my Bob's on.
I just took them off. Oh. Yeah, well.
Y'all should be happy, kids. You should be happy. I don't care if the house burned down, you still should be happy. Because your mama ain't going to be happy, but you still be happy. Where are you going?
I don't know. I'm going to do something. I don't know.
Yahoo.
Yeah.
When you answered the phone, you said, yeah. Did you have to answer the phone like that? Wow. Would you like for me to answer the phone like that?
Probably wouldn't bother me at this point in time.
Okay.
Maybe one day I can actually try to be happy.
Well, Jesus has already come and died and went back to heaven, and you still got to figure out what day you going to be happy? You already got your ticket ready to go to heaven. So in between the time you go to heaven and today, you have to decide whether you're going to be happy. What a waste of time. Go ahead and be happy.
Okay.
Itchy, itchy, itchy.
Um,
Scratch my back.
okay.
Right there. That's the spot. That's it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Right.
I was gonna say that saying that I try to be nice, like as defense, so I guess someone else won't have as much a reason to snap.
Don't be scared of people snapping. It's just a part of being a human being, and when you don't like what somebody's saying to you, then you want to snap. What is that? Just a human being being human. We can't ask for human beings to act like statues of gold. Because they're human, so they're going to have to snap. They're allowed to say, "Thank you so much for saying that to me, Theodore. I'm so glad you cleared that up." Or they get mad and say, "Why you shouldn't have said that to me." And you understand?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of people's response, because they may be happy with their response, or they may do somersaults in the front yard. The way they respond is the way they respond. It's their problem, the way they respond. What you have to say, you go ahead and say it. Now, sometimes you have to pray before you say it and ask God to hold your tongue so you won't insult people. But then after you pray and ask God to hold your tongue, then you ought to go ahead and say what you have to say. And God will take control of your tongue. Okay? Okay.
I was thinking, right after that, I was saying that part of my trying to be nice is like to earn someday, I guess, having like a life I can stand or something. And you like butted in with daring me to leave, and that I couldn't come back, and all the things that could happen. And I was just about to say that anyway, and you jumped right in and proved me right. It just kind of sort of came out of your mouth, like you say things that shouldn't come out, or at the doctor.
Yeah, I have told you before, it is not a good, safe thing for a single woman to live by herself. Now, lots of women try to live by themselves because they don't like their home life, or their sisters would always put their clothes on instead of wearing her own clothes. Irritation. And that's why people say, "Well, when I get my own place, ain't nobody going to wear my clothes but me." Somebody always tries to take advantage of the other person. Unless they're both raised in the convent with nuns. And they're taught to respect each other's property and privacy. Other than that, somebody's going to pick on somebody.
I didn't know nuns didn't pick on each other.
They're not supposed to. They're supposed to pray to God and ask God for the guidance and how they should teach and how they should teach the kids that come to the convent, the Catholic house. Nuns are supposed to be appointed of God to teach God's little ones. That's why we have Catholic school. From kindergarten to 12th grade. And even some colleges are Catholic. And they usually have fathers, priests, and nuns to teach them.
Okay. I was thinking when you like dare me to leave and say I can't come back, that makes me think you don't really want me here and don't really care what happens to me.
Well, when I say to leave and don't come back, it's because I feel you have walked away from God and what God says. So when you leave, you pack up your clothes and you leave and you go somewhere else, you will find out that it's not better and it's more dangerous. And so you are deliberately walking against God's word. And then you want to come back to God and say, oh God, I'm so sorry, please forgive me. Because if you haven't learned that lesson before you leave the first time, you'll do it a second time and a third time and a fourth time. You'll be like the children of Israel. And every time they go marry some idol-worshiping woman or man, then they realize, oh, I made a mistake. I got to go back and ask God to forgive me. Then they come back and then they go find somebody else to marry that God told them not to marry, like Samson. And they get a second chance and a third chance and a fourth chance. So God just gets fed up. People do that. Why they do that? Because their parents tell them, oh, it's okay. You can make a mistake and come back and we'll accept you and it's all right. And no, it's not. Sin is sin. And God don't like it. The parents, it's an awesome job of teaching children to respect God's word and don't walk against God's word. And don't be playing God like he's some kind of game. Because sin is sin to God. And whenever you, if you don't understand that you are sinning, then God will give you some mercy. But if you understand that you are sinning, your parents has told you, like Samson, over and over and over again, and you still go against God's word. Last time he repented of that, he died, pulled down the columns on that building, and killed more Philistines in his death than he did when he was alive. God doesn't play. And when his father made a sacrifice and the smoke went up and the angel came down in the smoke and told him, you and your wife will have a son by next year, and he is to be a Nazarene to God, and he's not to drink strong drink or have his hair cut, and he is to judge the Philistine. They already told him that before Samson was even born. Samson's parents understood how they were supposed to raise Samson, and they did their best. But he was a hardhead, and he just wanted to do what he wanted to do. And God was merciful to him till, it was time for Samson to reach his judgment and go stand before God. That's one couple that I know from the Bible that raised their child the way God said. Samson's mother and father. And the other people, they kind of made mistakes. Yeah, Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Joseph, the earthly father of Jesus. They were told by the angel, they raised Jesus up the way they should, and just the other couple that raised their child up the way they were supposed to raise it. Mostly everybody else made some kind of mistake. Parent-wise. I'm trying to raise you and Joshua up in God's Word. And that box that came from Marilyn Hickey, you said you don't have it yet?
I don't.
Well, anyway, we got several Bibles here, so we can still read God's Word and study it, pray, and ask God for His mercy and and we'll end up the way God said it. But I don't want you and Joshua to think that you can play around with God like the children of Israel want to go back to Egypt every time they wasn't happy about something, and always complaining to Moses. Well, what did you bring us out here for? You want us to die out here in this wilderness? Or we should have stayed in Egypt. After all the plagues that God had did on the Egyptians, and then the children of Israel that He delivered, they didn't have a gun, a slingshot, or nothing. God just miraculously made Pharaoh turn them loose. And then they got out in the wilderness and started arguing with Moses. And one time, God wasn't happy with them. And He caused an earthquake and swallowed up. What's his name? Somebody was arguing with Moses, and God caused an earthquake and opened up the earth and swallowed them up. Was it Dan? The tribe of Dan? Mm-hmm. And somebody, it's in the New Testament.
Earthquake that swallowed them?
Mm-hmm.
It swallowed a whole tribe?
Mm-hmm. It was 2 of them.
2 tribes?
Yes, because they kept arguing with Moses. Well, Moses, we don't have to do what you say. Who told us that you are judge over us? You can. And God says, okay. You don't want to do what Moses say? I'm not gonna pity you. I've done for you more than I've done for any other people. I wish this stuff would stop jumping up in my throat. Lord help us. Lord, you help Theodora. Help her to be peaceful, even though she is growing up in a house. Half folks want to do right, and other half don't want to do what's right, and it's irritating to Theodora. We're praying that you would take control of her life and her mind, and cause her to do the way you say, and don't be confused about what you say and what you mean. Cause her to always listen to your voice and do what you say.